Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Logistics UK's Decarbonisation initiative. It's a series of 3 webinars, and it's been sponsored by Bridgestone and Webfleet Solutions. Today's webinar topic, next slide please, is EV tyre development. And I'm Denise Biddell. I'm the Public Policy Manager here at Logistics UK, and I lead on vans and much of the environmental agenda. Apologies. Next slide, please. I'll be chairing today's session, and I'm just going to introduce the speakers, and I'll be managing the question and answers. But just a little bit of housekeeping first. All the delegates' microphones are muted throughout the event, and it is being recorded and will be available on demand afterwards for you to view if you registered. So if you've got any questions, please use the question and answer facility in the right-hand box on your web's dashboard. So without further ado, I'd like to go on to the next slide and introduce our speakers, please. Today we've got Gary Powell, who's the Technical Manager for North Region at Bridgestone Tyres. Gary's responsible for high product quality and reliability across all of the Bridgestone product areas. He's got acres of technical tyre knowledge that's second to none, I believe. He's been at Bridgestone for 21 years and has worked in the industry for 33 years now. And he's worked on some interesting projects, bespoke products for Toyota, Honda, Ford and Aston Martin. After that, we've got a case study from Carla Ditria at Volta Trucks. Carla is the Director of Business Development, and since they launched 18 months ago, she was part of the founding team and has now built a team of business development managers and gained market entry to 6 European countries. They secured 2 of the largest ever orders for electric heavy commercial vehicles with Petit Forita and for SDA and DB Schenker. So if I could have the next slide, please. So I'm going to hand over to Gary, and I look forward to hearing your presentation. Good morning, Gary.
Morning to you. Thanks, Denise. So, morning, everybody. So my name's Gary Powell. I'm the Technical Manager for UK and Ireland, and my presentation today is about EV tyre development. Next slide, please. Earth is currently facing a lot of environmental concerns. Environmental problems like climate change, resource depletion, loss in biodiversity, and much more that affects every human, animal, and nations on this planet. Over the last number of decades, more and more businesses have become more environmentally aware. This is because not only do green initiatives save on costs, reuse resources, and meet compliance requirements, but they also help to create a strong brand loyalty amongst their customers seeking similar ambitions and goals. Next slide, please. Besides lowering the consumption of energy, Bridgestone technology adoption and investment in R&D have supported ever-improving environmentally friendly tyre products, as well as internal manufacturing processes. We in Bridgestone are committed to continually work towards a sustainable society with integrity and in unity with our customers, partners, communities, and the world around us, to help ensure healthy environment for current and future generations. We have 3 important commitments: in harmony with nature, value natural resources, and finally, reduce CO2 emissions. It should be noted that even with EVs, there is insufficient sources of renewable energy. So every time you plug in, and more frequently you plug in, gas-powered power stations are still emitting CO2. However, latest generation of tyres and digital mobility solutions technologies can help reduce these emissions and save on fleet costs. Next slide, please. The end of the internal combustion engine is nigh. The electric transportation revolution is upon us. But while electric passenger cars have been the multi-industry headline makers, the road to zero emissions also calls for decarbonation of commercial vehicles. Progress is being made with EV HGVs already in the market and new models on the way. There are also new kids on the block who are looking to shake up the EV HG market with more powerful batteries and mileage ranges more consistent with HGV operation. Also, the UK government recently announced a ban on the sale of new diesel heavy goods vehicles from 2040. Trucks, however, present a unique set of challenges. Whilst electric HGVs are starting to come to market, range limitations remain a concern for now. So what is Bridgestone doing now and into the future to support the next generation of electric vehicles? Next slide, please. Okay, what are the tyre technical challenges with regards to EVs against ICE, internal combustion engines? You would expect range to be less than ICE vehicles. EVs are much quieter than ICE vehicles. EVs have a higher torque at lower revs per minute. If you're as old as me, you will remember your scale electric car that shot off down the track the minute you pulled the trigger. No different to what we see in a much bigger form of HGV scale electric. Finally, extra weight due to the battery. However, do you remember the 1980s mobile phone and suitcase battery pack? But now look at your latest smartphone. EV batteries will get lighter and more powerful. So when designing tyres now and into the future, we need to consider reduced energy loss tyres for improved range, increased tyre contribution to noise, increased wear rates, and finally, with regards to maximum vehicle weights, we do not expect to see an increase as HGV OEMs innovate with new materials. For these reasons, Bridgestone has been pioneering new technologies in tyre and rubber, tyre-centric services and mobility solutions to deliver the best products, services and solutions. For improving vehicle range performance, Bridgestone is using new tread compound technologies like Nano Protec and tandem mixing with hybrid silicas to generate ultra low rolling resistance compounds. New pattern designs and groove shapes for improved performance in both internal and external noise performance. Did you know that a tyre with no tread pattern is the best for noise? However, not a good design for UK wet weather conditions. Low tread deformation patterns that increase abrasion resistance by up to 50%. Tied and bridge tread blocks designs to reduce slip, so extending tyre life. And finally, though we are seeing vehicle load increase on passenger vehicles, we do not expect to see the same for commercial truck. Therefore, for now, standard sizes and current load index are expected. This is also supported by lightweight tyre designs to reduce vehicle mass without impacting tyre robustness and durability. Lightweight tyre designs also help in reducing tyre rolling resistance and therefore help extend the range of the vehicle. Next slide, please. Over recent years and months, we have launched new products designed for both ICE and EV vehicles, as both can benefit from these pioneering new tyre technologies. Take the urban all-position tyre product that was designed and tested within the UK on both ICE and EV vehicles. The tyre is designed for urban and mega cities with big RRC for reduced CO2 or improved battery range. The tyre is also B grade for wet performance, so it's improving safety without compromising RRC. And finally, market-leading noise performance 69 dB, which is essential when working in urban environments. Next slide, please. In addition to the urban all position, we have our Ecopia tyre product range. Again, with ultra low rolling resistance, AAA in steer, drive and trailer. So reducing CO2 to a minimum or maximising battery range. Again, the tyre is also B grade for wet performance, so improving safety without compromising RRC. Designed for the highway or continental usage, delivering the lowest cost per kilometre performance, CPK. I should also highlight our regional product, Duravis, that again has market-leading RRC label grades, but unfortunately we have no time to showcase this product. Next slide, please. Combined with tyre and rubber technologies, Bridgestone is also pioneering tyre-centric services and mobility solutions. Total Tyre Care is customizable tyre management and maintenance service package that helps fleet managers to maximize their fleet performance while minimizing costs. Web Fleet Solutions track vehicles, optimize routes, save fuel energy, rapid return on investment, process more orders, at the same time optimize routes and avoid traffic jams. Finally, Bridgestone is investing heavily in data analytics with new data collection solutions, new data platforms, new data processes, and new user interfaces. Next slide, please. As highlighted earlier, the electric transport revolution is upon us, and with Bridgestone's investment in research and development, combined with services, data, and internet-based technologies, then Bridgestone customers benefit from increased range or lower fuel bills, lowest CPK, enhanced safety, and reduced fleet carbon footprint. The world is changing fast, and Bridgestone and Web Fleet Solutions are right at the centre of this change. Our goal to shape a more sustainable world where all people and goods travel safely, efficiently, and comfortably. Our method, delivering smart, connected products, solutions, and services for a planet in rapid motion. Finally, our approach is to create products, services, and solutions that are complementary and that unveil new value to our customers. Next slide, please. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Gary, for a very interesting presentation. So I'd like to hand over now, next slide, please, to Carla, Director of Business Development at Volta Trucks.
Good morning, all. Thank you, Dennis, for the handover, and more generally to Logistics UK, Web Fleet, and Bridgestone for the opportunity to let Volta, I think, represent this transition and all manufacturers that deliver on electric trucks. So maybe we dive into the presentation. I'll introduce myself quickly. Thank you very much. I'm Carla, responsible for business development within Volta Trucks. I joined the company about 18 years ago, and I think maybe just an anecdote, I'm in fact the oldest employee of the company, so I've seen the company growing from a very small group of people and probably a very crazy idea to bring a complete new OEM to market in such a short amount of time. So we're definitely not as established as Web Fleet, Bridgestone, and Logistics UK, so I think it's worth taking the audience through the next slide, please, and show you a little bit the road that we've been on. So as Dennis said, we created the company about 18 months ago with the mission to bring to market electric trucks for sustainable cities and very much tackle many other problematics that our customers are facing. So we've been through multiple fundraisings. Last about two weeks ago, we actually announced 230 million in fundraise, mostly with Scandinavian money and our key stakeholders in the US. And last year, we finally revealed the VoltaZero, so our first product, through a demonstrator that we only took 15 months to develop, actually. So the way we can think about Volta is definitely, I saw in the previous slides, a new kid in the block and a company that is very agile and that can very much develop a lot quicker than any legacy OEM. So we have a very strong focus on Europe, with very much targeting the key metropolitan cities where we see the biggest registrations, the biggest pain points around air quality, and therefore all of these low emission zones flourishing everywhere. So we have a little bit of a city by city development, so very urban centric. We kick off our customer testings with the current fleet that we're building in Coventry in the UK. And then we will launch several other programs. So the first one is a 16-ton, and through this platform, we develop an 18-ton, and then a 7.5 and a 12-ton. So by 2025, we have 27,000 vehicles sold in perspective, and about four models in the range in multiple body variants. So if we can go through next slide, that will touch on the mission, and maybe I can give everyone a little bit of a the high level problematics that we're tackling. So environmental, we talked about it. There's definitely a safety aspect to what we are doing, very much starting from scratch. We want to give to operators better, safer, and definitely better kits and tools for the drivers to operate in cities in the safest way. So very much protect vulnerable road users as well. So if I take an example in London, 4% of the traffic are trucks, but they are responsible for 78% of fatal or deadly accidents with cyclists, and then 26% with pedestrians. So this is very logical because of the conception of traditional trucks with combustion engine. And by starting from a blank piece of paper, we've had complete freedom around the design. So the third pillar, or the third problematic that we're addressing, is very much around the driver shortage. So we know in the UK there are 100,000 drivers missing, and we think by providing a lot better ergonomic tool and a more pleasant working environment, we think that companies that will use VoltaZeros will definitely have a better have more attractiveness when it comes to recruitment and retention of the drivers. So if we go through next slide, I will show how does the mission translate into the product. So this is the 16-ton VoltaZero, our first model. So if I walk you through a little bit the conception and the idea, we've been able to develop in 15 months, apologies, the first demonstrator model. And that is very much possible because we've been relying on the industry key players, whether it comes from the design or actually the components. We've been sourcing off-the-shelf components that have been tested, certified, and that really much allows us to go into production as soon as possible. So within the demonstrator and the first test fleet, Bridgestone is one of the key players that we've selected. Maybe I start from the axle and I guess the skeleton of the vehicle. So we've started from an electrical axle from Meritor that's allowed us to remove a lot of mechanical and spare parts within the vehicle. So this is the first important point. We have the batteries from Tyre located in the wheelbase that really much allows us to have a better load distribution. And then again, because we had no combustion engine at the front of the vehicle, we've been able to have I think the key selling point, which is the cab. So with a lot more visibility, obviously a low cabin center position for the driver, which meaning that whether we are in Paris and London, drivers don't have to step in and out into traffic lanes anymore. if not directly on the payment side. So all ADAS systems, camera, radars, we basically designed the vehicle around the DVS standard, the direct vision standard. So now if I talk a little bit about tires, so we can see here that we selected Bridgestone for the demonstrator and model and testing models. I think we haven't released yet the large order for SOP, but I understand that this is on the way. So if I talk you through a little bit of the USPs, so we have sustainable urban mobility, so CO2 reduction thanks to lower RSE. We have a lower noise, so noise decrease, and strong casing for multiple type retreading. Now the second USP is around high load carrying. We get a better payload, excellent mileage, which is plus 9% compared to the predecessor in terms of improvement. We get reinforced sidewall for urban operations, so with the thicker sidewall. We get winter ready, and then radio frequency identification. So maybe I take you through next slide, please. This is a little bit how we can translate the battle, I guess, between combustion engine traditional vehicles and the Volta Zero. I just want to show the audience maybe an image that speaks to itself. So if we can go to next slide. This is how we think all size operators can adopt electric vehicles. So we are very disruptive on the product, but I think when we look at the business model and very much enabling transition for all size operators, again, whether they are very large or corporations or even startups, and tires is definitely part of this package. So when we think about Volta, our business model is called Truck as a Service, and that means that we want to provide the vehicles in all size, but also all of the ecosystem that gravitates around EVs. Meaning that we can asset finance the truck, and then all of the assets and services that you can see on this slide, going from insurance to charging infrastructure, which is a key one, to even tires and all type of maintenance. We want to provide for operators on any sort of length and flexibility to very much take that next step. We think that electrification is definitely creating anxieties within our customers' teams. This is why we want to make this step as easy as possible. So remain the unique point of contact to the customer, and very much provide everything on the white label solution, with Volta being the total project manager. So going from grid upgrades to installation to maintenance of the charging infrastructure and the truck. This is how we think, again, all size companies will be able to take this next step. So if I walk you through the next slide, which is very much the roadmap, and where you'll see Bridgestone tires on the Volta Zero. As I said, we are currently building 25 trucks within a site in Coventry. Each one of these 25 have a very dedicated testing program. If you follow us on LinkedIn, you can see the winter testing programs currently happening in the north of Sweden. And then within this 25 batch, we have 8 vehicles that will go between Paris and London, which are 2 launch cities. These vehicles will pretty much mirror our customers' operations to gather all of the potential defaults in the system, potential improvements, and then we'll go into the next series, that is the pilot program. So we have a batch of 100, 33 are dedicated to our customers. We're still looking for candidates to very much try all of the solutions, all of the. I see Dennis coming back. I think I need to rush through. So 25 vehicles, 33 vehicles that are allocated to customers to very much use this platform to convert our pre-orders into final orders, and then we'll go into SOP. So thank you very much all for the occasion. I think I'll hand over to Dennis.
I didn't mean to rush you at all. I was just sort of just sliding back in again. That's really fascinating and very, I think your slides demonstrate how important it is to actually look at the whole vehicle with the whole agenda for towards decarbonisation and sustainability. Obviously, the Bridgestone tyres are an integral part of your vehicle offering as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we can have the next slide. As I mentioned at the beginning, if you can type your questions into the platform Q&A box, that would be absolutely brilliant. But we've got one or two questions already there waiting. So I'm going to actually throw one. I'm going to bring Gary back on, if that's okay. And I'll ask a question of you. As sustainability is such an important element to a successful business, what is Bridgestone doing in this arena?
Okay, thanks for that question. In terms of our targets, so by 2050, we want to be 100% sustainable. And a big part of that is with regards to rubber. Obviously, rubber at the moment comes from equator countries. And of course, the demand for rubber as populations grow and mobility grows is intensifying. And of course, within equator countries, generally they're like the third world zone. So we see population growth in those areas as well. And of course, food production. And the one thing that we don't want to do is obviously put pressure on food production as we grow rubber production. So we're looking at other sources of latex, and we found it's a weed. It's called gaiol. It can be grown in arid countries, so it takes the pressure off the equator countries. And in fact, we've built a plant in America where we can grow this weed on the plains of America. And you know, we've had a lot of success in that, and we're actually sort of modifying the plant to improve the yield of latex. And so I never thought it, but yeah, Bridgestone is, you know, is farming, and we're farming a weed in America, and it's we've already included gaiol into our tyres. So we built a tyre with gaiol, and we're hoping to increase production there so that we can take, like I say, you know, pressure off the equator. It's about, you know, valuing natural resources, and it's about being in harmony with nature. And you know, this is quite an exciting time with regards to new sources of rubber. Sorry, Denise, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I totally agree with you. It is a very exciting time, and I absolutely love being part of this environmental agenda. There's so much innovation out there, so many exciting moods. And obviously we've just seen, if I can bring Carla in now, we've obviously seen you developing a truck from the ground up, literally. It looks very different. And it's interesting as you develop those new types of vehicles that it actually ends up touching a lot of bases. So you mentioned about the direct vision, which obviously for operators entering London, that's quite a hot topic at the moment. And it's great to see the collaboration between yourselves and Bridgestone in looking at sustainable ways, even right on the ground with the tyres. So I'm going to actually, I haven't got any other questions to ask you at the moment, Carla, but please chip in if you feel you want to add something to this question. And we actually see that Bridgestone is investing in low rolling resistance tyres, but are there additional items that fleets need to do to maximise these benefits?
Yeah, good question, because, you know, in reducing CO2 or improving range or improving fuel, in fitting sort of low rolling resistance products is just one part of that sort of puzzle. And what's really important is with regards to other elements that you still need to pay attention to in order to deliver the maximum performance in terms of fuel energy or reduce CO2. So the first thing is with regard to driver training. Explaining to the driver how their right foot can impact on either battery range or fuel or CO2. But also linked into that is a reward system, a way in which you can monitor your drivers and reward them accordingly so that they keep good practice all time. The other one to that is inflation pressures. I'm always surprised, even with passenger transport, how inflation pressure maintenance can be in some cases very poor. And of course, it's the air inside the tyre that carries the load. It's not the tyre, it's the air inside the tyre. And so often fleets are confused about who's checking their pressures and doing the maintenance on pressures. And sometimes they think it's the dealer, sometimes they think it's the OEM when he goes in for its 6-weekly servicing. Some people they think it's the drivers or whatever, but it's really, really important to have a robust inflation pressure system. So yes, you can install tyre pressure monitoring systems, but without interventions when you get warnings, things are not going to change. And of course, running with reduced pressure increases the rolling resistance. If you just think of like a wheelbarrow with a flat tyre and a heavy load in the wheelbarrow, and you're trying to push it, it's really difficult. If you've got the tyre pressure at the right, it's much easier. It's the same thing, with regards to a HGV and tyre pressures. So tyre pressures, can destroy any benefit with regards to rolling resistance.
Well,
the other one as well.
Oh, sorry.
the other one as well is that you have steers and you have drives and you have trailers, and the thing is that if you only fit half, say, the tractor unit with low rolling resistance tyres and not the trailer unit, then you only see 50% of the benefit. So it's about having rolling resistance products on all your axles to get the maximum benefit. And then finally, it's with regards to the type of operation, because within Bridgestone, we have regional product versatility, we have highway product, which is very much for continental uses, and then we have on and off a road. And the thing is it's about selecting the right product, to maximize your performance. And if you do all those points that I've raised, linked with a low rolling resistance product, then you'll get the full benefit. And not only will you save CO2, you'll also save money as well. Whether that's the electricity because you're plugging in less frequently, or your fuel in terms of at the pump.
Well, I've learned an awful lot there. Yes, I've learned an awful lot there. Carla, I just wondered if you had any thoughts about that. 'Cause you mentioned about driver retention as well. So obviously there's an input to keeping the tyres in good, a part to play by the drivers to keeping the tyres in good fettle. And I noticed you've got an awful lot of tech on your vehicles as well. So I presume tyre pressure monitors are an automatic part of that. Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to add a bit more of a high level holistic view. I think, as we go into this transition, we have two challenges, or very much two communities to convince. There's for sure the fleet managers of this world, all of the people that reference OEMs and solutions such as tires, but there's also very much the drivers that are, I think, that have I guess a lot more power than ever, especially in this situation with such a painful shortage. There's these two again that we need to convince and very much train and onboard to make sure that adoption is optimal. So to be honest, I don't have yet all of the granularity of who is going to be leading which creative maintenance topics. or preventive maintenance topic. But what I can say is that at Volta Trucks, we are conscious of this. I think we are an OEM that really cares about the end user of the truck and not only the fleet manager or the person that is going to generate revenue for us. But we think, drivers or a driving force definitely in this transition. If they don't adopt, if they don't feel like they are part of this, I'm certain that this transition won't happen in the same way, definitely. So by providing a much better working environment, for sure, we think that this will help retain drivers, but also very much attract younger generations and more females into the industry. I think in Europe we can account only for 2% of truck drivers. So we have an opportunity here to tackle this rupture of genders and generations, and this is a little bit of a personal battle as well.
Yes, I think in the van sector as well, it's a very small percentage as well of drivers. So it's good to sort of see the technology now, meaning that we can actually encourage a much wider representation of our populations into our industry, which is good to see. I just wanted to ask you, because Gary made a comment in his presentation about his expectations for battery technology. And the how it will improve and become lighter and provide more power, etc. And I just wondered, if we've got a manufacturer of a vehicle in front of us, it'd be interesting, Carla, to get your perspective on that, because we've just seen this last week the Category B derogation for alternatively fueled vans actually being confirmed, and the threshold for claiming grants for electric vans up to 4.25 tonnes has been changed. Previously it was just up to 3.5 tonnes for those plug-in vehicle grants. So obviously we're talking about trucks here, but it's a little bit of an indication of government thinking, perhaps. And I know, having talked to some manufacturers of vehicles, is in the short term they're not expecting wild things for batteries. But I'd like to hear from you as an operator, a manufacturer of a new vehicle, Carla, what you think, and then Gary, perhaps you'd like to come back on that.
So I think even though this doesn't necessarily target trucks or categories, I think what we see usually in large metropolitan areas is that cars and vans are setting the trend, and I think it's very much our it's our responsibility to showcase to all of these institutions that trucks are now available. I think when you look at the landscape, we have probably 7 legacy OEMs that are taking this transition step by step, but it's taking a long time. So if we take these as reference, it's tough to actually visualize trucks coming to market tomorrow. So what we are doing at Volta is very much sharing our voice and sharing that we are coming to market this year with test vehicles, and we'll be launching by end of year multiple solutions for our customers. So again, I think it's just a matter of time before institutions very much look at trucks, but we see that happening in Europe. I mean, that was last month. France announced up to 150,000 euros per electric truck. We see in Germany the government taking 80% of the ratio between a NICE and an EV purchase in trucks, still trucks. So I think it's going to be organic. All of these powerful and resourceful countries are heading there. I think France is probably leading the way, or Paris is leading the way, but it's going to be organic again. And I think this is very important to take this next step. But as we see more competitiveness in the market, and we think price decreasing and a lot more adoption or habits, I think later on it won't be as needed when it comes to government help. Gary, do you want to add?
From my side, I very much see like Volta as Tesla was for car. And I remember when the first Tesla models rolled out, everybody sort of sniggered and thought it would never take off. It's just a gimmick. And Tesla now is one of the most valued automotive companies. They sort of vie between Toyota and VW in terms of top spot. And that business came out of nowhere and dramatically changed everybody's perception of an EV vehicle. And I think Volta is going to be leading that way with regards to electric trucks. So, and there's a picture that I've seen of it was a street in London in 1900, and all you could see was horse and cart, and there was one automobile. There was a picture then taken 10 years later, and the street was full of automobiles, and there was only one horse and cart. That was without Google, that was without the web and the communications that we have. The rate of change is going to be dramatic, and everybody needs to be prepared for it. And I just hope the government is prepared as well, because in terms of charging infrastructure, that's critical for the success of rollout of EVs.
Yes, and yet that same picture, I think I know which is the one you're talking about, Gary. It's there was no government intervention. It was just petrol stations and fuel stations just appeared where they did. We've got a question here from delegates, and is the tyre degradation, I think this one's probably aimed at Gary, is the tyre degradation on an EV truck much different to an ICE vehicle?
I mean, with regards to EVs, as I've said, with regards to the torque at low revs, so generally there is going to be increased stress on the on the tyre, and of course the tread pattern and tread blocks are in contact with the road surface to give grip, to give that friction. So with that high torque, there is extra stress. But what we do, several things. Firstly, is control of the footprint shape, and that's really important. So you're trying to maximize the amount of load across the full footprint. Of course, inflation pressure is key to that as well, and maintaining good inflation pressure. But also having sort of low deformation patterns so that you can increase the block stiffness. So you will find that the original tread depths are slightly shallower than traditional ICE vehicles, and the reason for that is to maximize block stiffness. But to offset any sort of impact on wear, then we've introduced latest sort of mixing technologies, nanopro technology, where we can control at a molecular level the carbon black, the silica molecules, the rubber chains in a very ordered fashion, so we can optimize the silica and carbon black distribution throughout the compound, which we couldn't do in the past because we've now got new mixing techniques like tandem mixing. So it goes from the compounds that we're developing now for these high torque vehicles. It's related to the patterns where we're increasing the stiffness, reduce slip, because slip is the biggest killer, and then it's refining the footprint shape so that we get good pressure distribution across the whole. In doing those three things, then we can protect the wear characteristics of these tyres and deliver the mileages that the OEM requires, and also customers.
Excellent. Carla, I've got a very quick question for you. Someone's asked if there's a curtain-sized version of the Volta truck. Oh, you're smiling, so you've obviously been asked a question before, I think.
Indeed. So we know how important curtain side is, or especially in the UK for pallet distributions. We definitely have curtain sider in the roadmap, but maybe an explanation as to why we're not kicking SOP with multiple variants. We think, like Gary said, we can have a very strong impact by being as focused as possible. So only electric, only 2 variants, which are a rigid dry freight box and a refrigerated box. So we can still address multiple use cases and market verticals. But curtain siders will come in probably in the first year of SOP, indeed. Thanks for asking.
Okay. I've got a question here about, in the continuity of carbon footprint reduction, what is the plan for lowering CO2 emissions along the production process? What is your vision to make eco tyres more recyclable? So I think that's looking at the whole life cycle of the tyres.
Yeah, I mean, we're already on that road path as well, with regards to many of our plants now have solar panels on top of the manufacturing facilities, so we can harvest the energy from the sun. So we're doing that. We're also, with regards to water as well, because believe it or not, we use a lot of water. So again, with regards to water in cooling compounds, we're doing a lot in terms of recovery and reuse of that important asset. Again, it goes back to valuing natural resources. So there's a lot that we're doing there as well. And of course, not only are we looking at solar, we're also looking at wind generation as well. So, and those are not things that we're thinking of. Those are things that we've actually done to improve, the energy usage within our manufacturing facilities, using more renewables than obviously, oil or gas. In terms of end of life tyres, nowadays you cannot landfill, and generally, the next port of call is with regards to cement kilns, and of course that is not very environmentally friendly. So what we are looking, and we are in partnership with Michelin as well with regards to porosity. So porosity is a way in which you can take worn tyres and extract from those carbon black and oil, and then use those materials back into our tyres. And I mentioned with regards to our sustainability goals to be 100% sustainable by 2050. A big part of that is with regards to pyrolysis. So a lot of work in looking at joint venture, looking at building partnerships with a technology that is, only maybe in the last 6 years has been available in a commercial sense. So look out for that for the future.
Okay. Got a question for Carla here about the payload. So is what's the payload of the 18-ton Volta going to be? Because I think this is the question, that the batteries are heavier in vehicle. So, how much reduction in your payload is there, if there is any at all, from your vehicles?
It's it's a very good question. So, by the fact that we started from scratch, actually, we removed about 90% of mechanical and spare parts. So the chassis is purpose built for electric vehicles. Therefore, we're not like a hybrid, or we're not using an existing production line, right? So all of this dead weight doesn't come into the equation. So you'd be surprised, actually. We're using the NMC technology, which has the most density, so the lightest weight in the market. I think the battery packs are the lightest in the market again, and because we're starting from a purpose-built chassis, I think payload isn't the issue. We do have some customers that are looking at heavy payloads, but usually because it's more so parcels, we also want to provide the biggest volume. So currently the payload is around 8.2, depending on the 8.2 tons, depending on again, equipments, body type, etc. It can be plus or less, which is very competitive to a 16-ton combustion engine truck. So not an issue, not a downside on this point, actually.
Excellent. Well, there was a question from a delegate that's actually left the call, but it's actually quite an interesting one. Understanding the carbon 2 reduction and what's actually happening regarding air quality and those reduction of particulates. I think there is a focus on that, particularly in city centres. So be interesting to hear what Gary's got to say about that.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a political question because you know, if you're looking at obviously tyre particulates and brake dust particulates, then there's been on the tyre side a lot of research with regards to airborne particulates, and of course this is not a you know, a Bridgestone issue. This is a tyre industry issue, and the focus at the moment, because of the size of particulate, is with regards to how it affects our local waterways. And the thing is that, as I said, this is an industry issue, and the ETRMA, the European Tyre Rubber Manufacturing Association, which we're all part of, the premium players, we've invested, you know, literally hundreds of thousands of euros with the EU as well in investigating this into more depth. So there's a lot of research, and it's literally hundreds of thousands of euros are going into this. So yes, it's a tyre industry issue. It's not a Bridgestone issue. Well, you know, we play our part, and we're working with the EU on that particular issue.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it, Gary? But as you say, it's an industry issue, and it's something that I think everyone is more aware of these days, but we've lived with it for an awfully long time. So it's not a problem that's necessarily going to be solved overnight, but it's good to hear that there is work going on. I've got a simpler question here for you, Carla, hopefully, and that's, do you find there are any major barriers from not being a traditional OEM, or is there freedom in being a new entrant? So.
From my side, it's I feel like it's a new game. So there's no one that knows how to do it, I think, better than us when it comes to, you know, building a brand from scratch and very much having electric as top of mind solution for the market, having a holistic view. You know, sometimes I hear, you know, actually yes, but you know, we should rely on other OEMs because there's a certain service network, or you know, there's an extensive workforce. But my view is that, you know, when you're suffering from your legacy and you have multiple alternatives to sell from your portfolio, when your workforce, you know, I'm talking thousands and thousands of people aren't trained on these new use cases, or your maintenance network isn't actually purpose built to you know, maintain trucks, electric trucks, well, it's actually something that I think you suffer, you know, from when you're starting from scratch. It's actually obviously so much less, you know, capital and time intensive for us, that we can move a lot quicker. I think what we need to work on is definitely the credibility aspect of things, build trust amongst our customer base. And, you know, I think 2022 is the year that we do that. For 2 years, I've been selling an ideology, a dream, or sometimes PowerPoints or videos. This year, we're going into operations and delivering on promises by delivering trucks in our customers and end users' hands. So it's just, you know, building that credibility, which is key. At the end of the day, you know, these trucks are a tool for our customers. They generate revenue. We need to make sure that, you know, we help them getting, you know, better margins. We know how much they're suffering from the existing, you know, economical conjuncture. So what we need to do is guarantee uptime, the best service possible, because the product is one thing, but at the end of the day, they want to make sure that, you know, trucks run every morning at, you know, a certain time, and that they can rely on us to provide this service.
Excellent. Oh, well, that's really confident. So thank you. Good to know. And hopefully a simple one for you at the end, Gary. Someone's asked about whether your eco tyres are regroovable. I'm presuming that that's another way of putting for retreads.
Yeah. It's all part of the total tyre life. So it's regards to, because we've got a premium tyre with a premium casing, so you can have it from new, you can then re-groove, and then you can retread multiple occasions. But again, a lot of energy has gone into producing that new tyre, and in terms of retreading, which is our Bandag franchise, we invest a lot in that because it's all about recycling, and it's all about that sustainability journey that every business, sustainability needs to be the core of everybody's business, and of course retread is a very good way of recycling.
Yeah. And it's that conservation of resources, isn't it? Whatever it is we're doing.
Yeah.
So we're down to our last 5 minutes. So I'm just going to ask a question of each of you, and I'm going to start with Carla here. It's like, you've obviously got quite an exciting proposition, but as a whole, looking at that very high level, where do you see the electric vehicle industry going in the future? Is the sky the limit? Are we going to be filled with all sorts of, or do you have a view on that? Is it going to be faster than the government deadlines? I guess you're hoping it will be.
If I think about electric, and maybe why did we choose electric for this specific use case? We think that battery electric or ready for urban distribution for a certain mileage. My view is that electric is going to be part of the energy portfolio. It's not going to be only electric, only hydrogen, only gas, only this. It's going to be a full mix of solutions, because our customers need to think about the whole supply chain, the whole value chain. And I'm not here claiming the Volta Zero is the response to anything. I'm saying this is, I think, a perfect product that responds to many problematics within a certain use case, right? So I think we're going to see new OEMs coming in, OEMs that deliver on new projects, on existing, almost conversion or retrofits, which I think we need anyways, because it's not going to be a demand issue, it's going to be a supply issue. So I think everyone needs to get to market as soon as possible with many solutions to make sure that there's actually a market for our customers to convert. The more solutions there will be, the more we celebrate, because that helps us going faster, in fact. So I don't have a crystal ball, Denise, but I think we're going to see a lot of solutions. I think the ADAS, the data generation is something that we need to be working on as a group, OEMs, institutions, cities, to make sure that we can mutualize, we can, decrease congestion, we can think about smarter way to operate, especially when it comes to, cities like London and Paris. It's a whole ecosystem that needs to work together for, at the end of the day, the benefit of, citizens and our customers.
Excellent. Well, that's very positive, and I think it probably sums up quite a lot of the views that we have here at Logistics, that there needs to be much more interaction between the systems. But it's good news, Gary, that it's not one single solution. So you've got lots of opportunities to work with different technologies here for your vehicles. So what's your future hold?
It's going to be very exciting, in fact, in the commercial side, because clearly we've had passenger car in terms of EV for far longer than we have with regards to HGV, and there's a lot of technologies that we have in our consumer passenger car portfolio that you'll start to see come to surface with regards to HGV technologies like Enlighten, O-Logic. So yes, I think it's probably the most exciting time to be in tyre development, because it is changing at lightning pace, and the new technologies that are hitting our desks that we're looking to sell is just phenomenal. So yeah, in sight, a lot of change is still to come, and yeah, many more years of working with Volta as well on their fleet portfolio.
Excellent. Well, I thank you both really very much for your time today. Thank you to all our delegates for participating here. Before anybody disappears off, do download the handouts. There are 2 of them. And just again to remind you that we actually do have more webinars in this series. The next one will be in the summer, and further details will be available on our website soon, so do check in. Just a little bit of housekeeping, that the link of this session's recording will be emailed to you, so if you didn't quite catch any of the answers, then hopefully you'll be able to hear them again. So thank you everybody for being with us today, and I look forward to seeing you again at future webinars.
Thank you.